All right. The webinar is recording. We are seeing a lot of people already joining. It's climbing rapidly. We have 35 on so far. I like these early birds getting ready, getting settled into the webinar that we're going to be starting in just a minute now. So welcome everyone to today's webinar on Instagram Reels. Today's webinar, you will learn all about how you can really tap into the potential of using Instagram Reels for your nonprofit organization. And we are joined here with Martha Pena from Meta. So I am so excited to turn this over to Martha in just a minute. But before I do that, I want to go over a few housekeeping items. And I would love to hear from you in the chat. What do you hope to get out of today's webinar? What are your big takeaways that you're hoping to learn? So please go ahead, fire up the chat. We would love to hear from you. And also just what organization you're with, where you're from. Let's connect, let's engage throughout the webinar, because that's why we're here live, right? Is to really get the opportunity to engage with each other. So great to see so many people joining so far. So welcome again. It's 1 o'clock now, so we'll officially start. So welcome to the webinar today, Instagram Reels, your nonprofit's biggest untapped potential on social media. So this webinar is hosted by Community Boost and presented by Meta. So we are going to have Martha Pena up in just a moment. We're engaging in the chat, learning a little bit more about what you hope to learn today, as well as where you're all from, organizations and location. And I wanted to let everyone know that while we are unable to share the slides for this webinar, we will be sharing the recording tomorrow. So in case you miss anything, don't worry, this is going to end up in your inbox. I also just want to point everyone to the Q&A pane. So it's really essential that all of your questions, there's a lot of you joining today, so it's really easy to miss all of your great questions in the chat. So put them in the Q&A pane, and that's where we'll be sourcing all of your questions from. And we have some time at the end to answer them. So excited for all of this. So a little bit more about Community Boost, who's hosting the webinar today. So Community Boost is a digital marketing agency for nonprofits, and we exist to empower social ventures changing the world. So we work with some small organizations to some of the largest organizations in the world to really help them scale impact online. So you'll see there's some logos here. We work with the Cancer Research Institute. Just recently, we started working with Charity Water, Habitat for Humanities, Humane Societies, and so much more. So we are so excited to be able to directly serve 345 nonprofits last year and generate over 14 million in online revenue for them. So we do this with a lot of different ways. We do Google Ad Grant Management, we do Facebook and Instagram advertising, as well as search engine optimization strategy and YouTube advertising. So really any digital advertising you can think of, that's where we can get plugged in for you. So if you're interested, please feel free. You can schedule a call with us. And we also love to provide free resources for nonprofits. So webinars like this, as well as our Nonprofit Marketing Summit, which reached over 22,000 nonprofits last year. And we would love to see you at the next one. So that's coming up August 16th through 18th, and you can fundraise to the future with us. So that's our theme. So I'm excited about it. I hope to see you all there. And so if you're interested in getting a package of resources, we're going to be talking a lot about using Instagram Reels today, but if you want to get a whole package that will help you really implement all of these learnings, I really encourage you to sign up for our social media engagement strategy call and resource package. So we'll give you a free strategy session, really like learn more about the channels you're using, and the strategies you're using, and help you engage more on social media. We'll talk a little bit about digital ads as well, if that works for you. And then we'll give you a resource package that you can take home with materials that will help you implement everything as well. And so we'll be including some of Meta Blueprint's resources in there as well. So you can use the QR code, or I'm gonna paste a link in the chat in just a moment here, and you can take advantage of that free session. But without further ado, I've done enough talking. I really want to welcome Martha Pena to the webinar today. You are going to learn so much from her. Martha Pena is a Blueprint Live education partner for North America, based in Austin. So thanks for joining us from all the way in Austin. Shout out to anyone else in the chat who's from Austin as well. And so Martha has managed paid social campaigns, both in-house and for agencies, and really has a wealth of information to share. So I'm so excited. Thank you for being here today, Martha.
Awesome, thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Where is it? There we go. All right, hopefully you're seeing a screen that says reach your business goals with Reels. Thumbs up, yes, 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 yes. Love it, love it. Awesome. All right, I've been keeping an eye out on the chat, and I'm so excited to be here and share with you some of the things that we have been seeing in terms of how businesses are reaching their business goals with Reels, but in particular, how nonprofits are utilizing this platform to help them effectively reach their goals. I wanted to also introduce my teammate, Isa. Isa, do you want to say hello to everyone really quick? Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks. I'm Isa. I'm going to be here on the back end today, assisting Martha. So if you have any questions, you can use that chat function in the Q&A that I see you guys are already using, and I'll be able to assist you.
Awesome. So there's so many of you. I know you have so many questions, so we needed to get a little bit of backup to make sure that we were able to address any questions and make sure that we covered everything and anything that you need to know regarding Reels. And I'm so glad to have Isa with me on the back end because we have a lot of content to share with you. We're first going to talk about just kind of Reels in general, you know, what it is, an introduction, how we've seen it used to engage audiences, and then we'll really talk about how it can help you reach your goals and how to create them, and in particular, some of the things that we're seeing nonprofits do effectively. One of the things I'll call out is that our company, of course, you probably are familiar, has changed and is now Meta. And while this company name is changing, we're continuing to offer the same products, including the Facebook app from Meta. Our data policy and our terms of service remain in effect, and this name change does not change how we use or share data. You can learn more about our terms of service by visiting about.facebook.com/terms, and you can learn about our vision for the metaverse by visiting about.facebook.com/meta. All right, I hope you're all excited and ready to get started. We're gonna first start off with engaging your audience and the opportunity that Reels creates to express yourself. So first is just sort of level set, and let's talk about what Reels are. They're short, entertaining videos on particularly Instagram, but they're also available on Facebook that can help you express your creativity and share your unique brand personality. Most people in Instagram are using it to explore their interests and also connect with others that they care about. And you can use Reels to create valuable relationships with your community and participate in trends that highlight what makes your organization unique. As you share engaging and creative Reels, people can discover your brand, in particular in the Reels tab. And I think one of the questions that I saw coming in from someone, I can't remember the name, but while I was looking, as Candace was doing her intro, somebody was like, hey, what are the benefits of making sure that I am creating this Reel and sharing it in the Reels tab? And really, we're seeing that Reels have this opportunity to be discovered through the explore page and just how much people are engaging with them. And so having them in that tab in particular is one of the things that you can do to ensure that you just get a ton more eyeballs on them. And so we're going to talk about just how to get inspired and also create a plan for your reel before we talk about what we've seen nonprofits do with them in particular. So before you even get started, you want to think about a creative plan that aligns with your organization, right? Reels are so fun, they're creative, they're engaging. It's not something that needs to be highly produced, but we know that your organizations have this end goal of getting supporters, of getting volunteers, or of raising funds. And so we've seen that those that start off with a plan creatively, especially when you're looking to use Reels for a business outcome, have so much more success. And what that means, and some of the ways that you can do that, is by one, just kind of saving Reels that you find interesting or that you want to create from the perspective of your business, right? So you want to start looking at, okay, what are the things that are capturing my eye when I'm scrolling through this feed that I can recreate or that I can remix? What are the elements, even if this reel is for a financial services company or it's about career tips, right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be in your focus area, but what are some of the elements that you can extract from there that can be interesting for the particular services and support that your organization offers? The second thing that you really want to think about is monitoring cultural moments and as well as trending topics or themes, right? So depending on your organization, maybe there's an opportunity to tap into, let's say, Coachella, right? And like the vibe and the energy that was happening in all the conversations that were taking place across our platforms. Or maybe there's an opportunity if your organization is focused on the arts, for example, to tap into cultural moments regarding, I don't know, the Oscars or the Emmys and talk about or use a reel that can really highlight how your organization can support and create the future stars of the world, right? So you want to think about, okay, what's trending from a visual perspective, even from an audio perspective, because we've seen that also be key. And then you want to think about, in terms of a content calendar generally, what are the cultural moments that have some synergy or some affinity with our cause that we can just like attach ourselves to and be able to ride that wave. In addition to those first two things, I really do want to call out our Instagram for Business Instagram account. I've seen a lot of inspirational posts there, and even the creators account on Instagram as well, that's managed by our Instagram team, is one that I personally look at when I'm trying to figure out creatively like what else to bring to the table on my own reels, but also when I'm kind of figuring out like, gosh, what's going to work, or what are some of the top creators doing that I should be looking at or should be paying attention to. So I would say, let's save what's standing out to you, because it's likely that those things are standing out in the space for people like you and that care about likely similar causes. Let's think about, from a holistic standpoint, what are the moments that we want to make sure, and the conversations that we want to make sure that we're a part of. And then 3, check out our accounts to make sure that you're keeping up to date on like what's new, but also what are some of the things that maybe are not trending amongst the people or communities that you're following, but that we're seeing as popular overall. It's also really important that I first call out just kind of what are some of the interactive tools that you have available on Reels, and how are some of the ways that people can interact with your own content, right? So of course you have the opportunity to like, to comment, or share a reel, and you have those buttons available to do that on the bottom left. To save a reel, all you have to do is tap the 3-button icon. And this is going to be key when we were just talking about making sure that we're looking at what stands out to us and saving them for inspiration. Like I have an entire set of things that are saved, not just reels, but posts and videos that I have saved under inspiration that I go back and look at when I'm thinking about what are the things that I should be considering when it comes to like an education lens. So I started following a lot of people that are giving career advice, a lot of presenters, a lot of marketing agencies, to see how they're also bringing things to the table. And like that inspiration can come both ways. So I can think like, oh, I hadn't thought of this, or they're talking a lot about this particular topic. There must be an audience for that. And then of course I was mentioning that ability and that opportunity to like remix, which gives you a chance to participate in the conversation and hop on board some of the trends that we're seeing on the platform. And of course, when you create a remix, it creates a new reel alongside an existing reel. And that gives an opportunity to engage with your community and also increase the discoverability of your organization. Later on, we'll talk about fundraising using reels. It's something a little bit newer that was released in, I believe, currently 30 countries. I'm not sure if this is open just to the US or everywhere else, but I know that it's currently available for 30 countries, and we have just some anecdotal things that we've been seeing as successful. There aren't any case studies currently built out because the feature is so new, but there are some things that we're already seeing as, hey, this is working. All right, so we talked about some of the ways that you can get inspired, and also the importance of making sure that you create a plan that's going to help you get to your end goal. So when you're creating this creative plan, there are a couple of things that we recommend you take into consideration. One, what is the topic, right? What is it going to be about? Is this reel going to be focused on fundraising? Is this reel going to be more of an introduction to the cause that you're supporting? Is the reel going to be a success story of somebody who's gone through the program or used your services and has a lot of really great things to share about the work that you do? Is it going to be, I don't know, a call for volunteer or a recap of a program or something that you've done, right? So maybe you just had an event to benefit breast cancer awareness. Maybe the reel is going to be first showing how you prepared for the event, and maybe you're showing like the different teams and the different elements that took into putting it together. And then a few days later, you want to post a reel of the moments that took place and the successes of the event, or like the outcomes, right? So you want to first start off with thinking, what's the appropriate topic or thing that we want this to be about? The second consideration is establishing your creative voice. You want to define a voice that showcases the personality of the organization and also emphasizes what makes it unique. And you want to make sure that that voice and that tone is really consistent across all of the other posts and communications that you may have active, not just on our platform, but just in general. So I saw someone send in a question like, hey, my organization is supporting a pretty heavy cause. Like, how do I use reels if my cause is not this like fun and happy thing? And that really goes back to this point of, you want to make sure that that voice is consistent. If your organization is supporting something that's a little bit heavier, then you want to think like, is the tone that you generally have across your content hopeful, right? Like maybe it's not happy-go-lucky, but maybe it is more focused on hope, on you can do it, on overcoming challenges, and then using that potentially as that topic that you want your reel to be about. Maybe it's following somebody's journey, as we were talking about success stories, of like having somebody do a voiceover of how they've overcome this battle. And maybe you're showing them visually, like climbing a mountain or like doing this strenuous activity and coming out of it successful, and then kind of having some voiceover in the reel really support and supplement that. But you don't want to take on an identity that's not reflective of your organization, of its mission, and also just like that brand personality that you set up just in reels, and then be a completely different person on all of the other channels that you're active on. So hopefully that answered that question. The third thing to really consider and think about is including an element of surprise. You want to excite, you want to inspire, and usually just kind of something that comes out of left field, whether it's visually, whether it's in the audio, where we're seeing a lot of like remixed songs be kind of that element of surprise, or even some of the effects that you're able to use natively on the platform. Any of that has really been proven to hook people in and get them to want to spend a little bit longer viewing the content. So really speaking of that voice, I wanted to show this really, really quick template that we have, I think, as part of one of our e-learning courses, where we talk about building a brand for businesses overall, but I thought would be helpful to bring here because as I was saying, you want to make sure that there's consistency across all the platforms that you're a part of, across all of the communications that you share out about your organization. And I personally, like when I've helped friends or some of the organizations that I volunteer for, I like to have them kind of really think about what they consider their brand to be in terms of these scales, and also have an organization like grade themselves where they think they currently are, right? So is what you're doing for your marketing matching where you want to be and the brand that you're looking to build? And if there's some gaps, how can we use stories or reels or posts or our Facebook groups to help kind of bridge that and get us to where we want to be as a brand? Okay, so we talked a little bit about, hey, this is what reels are. And we talked about some of the things that we have to consider, right? What are the moments that we want to tap into? What is the brand personality that we want to make sure comes across? So now let's talk about how it can help you reach your business goals and some of the ways that we've seen reels be used effectively. So to create relevant content, you can participate in conversations about those cultural moments and trending topics that we talked about. And then you can also engage, depending again on where you fall in terms of that brand voice and where your organization falls and what feels authentic to you. You can also participate in challenges that are unique and authentic to your brand. One of the things that I mentioned in, one of the last conferences that I was a part of, right? So I've had the distinct pleasure of being able to partner with Community Boost a number of times now, and I try to bring something different every time. But one of the things that we shared the last time that we were here, maybe the time before that, were just like some of the ways that nonprofits can connect with audiences, not just on Reels, but across our platforms overall, right? So giving people behind the scenes to like how the organization is run, whether it's through the the marketing team, the execs, the volunteer leader, showing them what it takes to have things run. And maybe you want to have people on the team participate in these challenges, or maybe during one of your volunteer events, if you're having those, have somebody or have your group of volunteers participate in one of those dance challenges, and maybe showcase how fun it is to volunteer for your organization and all of the great work that you're able to do while still enjoying yourselves, right? So you don't want to think of like, oh gosh, there's this dance challenge that has nothing to do with, I don't know, saving the environment. Maybe you want to show people that are cleaning up a local park, or that are planting trees or something, and have them, as they're doing this activity together, maybe they participate in the challenge, and you're showcasing like, yes, volunteering can be fun, we can do good and make the world a better place, right? So you just want to think about, where can we create areas of synergy? And a big part of that is what I was saying earlier, is like kind of saving what stands out to you, not necessarily just for your cause or in your particular area, but just things in general that look fun, that like stand out to you. Go through to the Reels tab, scroll through some of that content and see what's making your thumb stop, right? We always talk about creating thumb stopping content. What's sort of that thing that's getting your thumb to stop? Maybe it's gonna work if you remix it or create it in a way for your cause as well. Brand personality is another thing. I sort of mentioned this already, but AR effects can be really fun and can be a great way of showcasing the brand. Custom audio, I think, is another really great one. I was mentioning like voiceovers. So we, of course, have a ton of trending audio that you're able to leverage for your Reels. I know I was doing one on like a training, and we were creating a Reel together. And so I like literally typed in like learn, right? And the Foo Fighters Learn to Fly showed up, and like I picked it for my Reel, and I thought it just had a lot of great like synergy, and it felt appropriate for what I was covering. If you don't have something that you feel is synergistic or that works with your brand, well, maybe then you want to be able to use your own voiceovers to talk about the organization's mission. Or maybe you want to use the voiceover to highlight a particular success story, or take someone behind the scenes and add in your own tidbits about what makes your organization unique, and maybe reinforce that with some of the native tools that we have, including text, including GIFs, stickers, and things like that, all of which can really help when it comes to reinforcing this brand that you may already have in place. So people are watching Reels to explore and discover new and entertaining content. To help more people discover you in the Reels tab, that means just kind of playing around, and while you have this creative plan, knowing that you have to be a little bit playful, and this is an area where you can take, really similarly, I think, to stories, just kind of take a little bit more risks and experiment to see what works, and what maybe doesn't stand out as well as you thought it would. For nonprofits in particular, we know and have seen fundraising being successful since its launch, and it's only been live for not even that long in those 30 countries that I mentioned. But we're seeing that creating fundraisers and Reels is something that a lot of people actually want to participate in. And one of the really interesting things is that for a lot of organizations, some of the things that I hear are, we don't have a ton of marketing people, right? Or we don't have this huge you know, community of influencers that want to talk about our product, our organization, right? They rather talk about products and, you know, I don't know, do a swipe up than, in some cases, a lot of organizations feel, then talk about their fundraiser. But what we're noticing is that a ton of the fundraising reels that are being created are actually created by supporters that don't even necessarily have like the largest followings. So of course, you as an organization can create your own reel and really think about creatively, what are the things that can help me stand out? What are the things that align with my brand? But we're also seeing that a lot of individual supporters are creating reels benefiting the organization versus a lot of organizations maybe having the bandwidth to create the reels themselves. And so one of the things that I would very much encourage you to do is, when you're thinking about your holistic marketing strategy and your newsletter, your in-person events, maybe on your website, is making sure that you create a call out so that some of your supporters know that they have this opportunity to create a fundraiser on behalf of your organization or that benefits your organization. And so here I just have the steps that you're able to use if you want to create a new fundraiser, either as an organization or if you want to share out these steps for the many supporters that you probably already have, and say like, hey, you know, you've done birthday fundraisers in the past. Why don't you make sure that you create a fundraising reel for us as well? Or have a little fun and support our organization and create a reel benefiting, you know, X and Y cause. In addition to having the opportunity to create new fundraisers from scratch on reels, or even encourage your current supporters to create reels that benefit your organization. If you currently have a fundraiser and you're like, Martha, I don't know, I'm inspired, I want to create a reel and I want it to link or redirect to the fundraiser that I'm currently running because I want to just take advantage of this momentum. On your screen now, you're seeing the steps that you need to take to be able to do that, right? So you don't have to think like, man, I didn't create this plan. I don't have this set guideline or set steps already in place, and I'm gonna miss out on this momentum because my fundraiser is already in place. If you know, I don't know, you have a kid or you have a sister, or I don't know, you've already looked at a ton of reels and have some ideas and you feel like you want to just take advantage of that timing, then you can just follow these steps to make sure that you're linking your existing fundraiser on reels, and hopefully you'll see those donations or that support really rolling. So there are 6 steps to creating a reel, and I know I included those for the fundraiser in particular in the last 2 slides, but I wanted to talk through in depth the actual steps for creating a reel, because as I was waiting, I saw that a few folks particularly called this out as something that they wanted to make sure that they knew. So of course, to create a new reel, you want to open the Instagram tab. The app, you're also able to do this on Facebook, but we're going to primarily focus on Instagram. And you want to go to the Reels tab and tap the camera icon. Then you want to tap that length icon. And like, happy to have you go through this with me now. Maybe we can come up with something creative in a short period of time together. And you want to select what length you want the reel to be. So it can be 15, 30, or 60 seconds in duration. I don't have any particular stats on like what length for nonprofits in particular has worked best. But, you know, we have seen a trend overall leaning towards short form content. And so I would say if you're getting started, let's maybe start off with that 15-second length first and see if we feel that we, as in us, if we feel that we can get that main point of our organization, if the message that we want to make sure comes across, we're able to do in 15 seconds. Like we could even do a fun, like, I don't know, did you know? Did you know that, you know, Alzheimer's is, you know, people point and it's like this, and share maybe three facts about Alzheimer's. Or did you know that our organization, bang, 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 and kind of like show that in a reel, right? So there's a lot of really interesting things that you're able to do in very short periods of time. It's just really, I think, looking at examples, but also kind of setting the time aside for some creative thinking. Okay, so that's just step one, opening the tab and selecting the length. You have that 15, 30, and 60 seconds to choose from, but I would say let's start off with 15. And if we feel that we can't get the message across in that period of time, we can maybe go up to 30. And then maybe if we want to, if we're like throwing all caution to the wind, we can start off with that 60. The second thing is to experiment with creative tools. That means thinking about audio, speed, the effects, timer, and align. I want to do a quick plug for that creators Instagram account that I was mentioning earlier, because I think they have one of the best videos that I've personally seen on Align, and a quick tutorial that you can do with them to kind of like, I don't know, get up to speed with what this feature does and how you can use it, especially if you're maybe more consuming reels, if you never created one on your own. Kind of starting off by looking at these tutorials I found to be really helpful before I was creating my own. You can also look out for, you know, if you type in trending, you can see what's trending audio. You can do what I did and I just typed in a keyword to see, gosh, what audio would be appropriate for this particular keyword. Effects, I think, are a lot of fun. I've seen people use some filters, or there's one where you like swoof from one visual to another. If you're showing, I don't know, a before the garden is planted to after the garden is planted or something, like all of those things are native to the app and I think can be really helpful. All right, so that's step number 2, is kind of just playing around and looking at what are the effects that are going to help make my reels that much more engaging, that much more entertaining. Then we're off to step 3. And this is where you're recording the reels, usually in a series of clips or all at once. I've personally found the clips to be just a little bit easier to get a grasp of from a recording perspective, but then also from a creation perspective, right? Especially if you're looking to do voiceovers, recording it all at once, I think just adds a little bit of pressure. And if you mess up one line, you got to start the whole thing over. Excuse me. And I know it's only a few seconds, but I think it's just more seamless, in my personal opinion, when you do it in a series of clips. But you, of course, have the option of doing either one. You also have an option to upload existing videos from your phone. So maybe, I don't know, it's April and you had a great event last April and you have all of these recordings of it and you're doing like a year recap, or you're comparing, or maybe you want to put, you know, the event last year versus the event this year and show them on different sides of the screen. Or use some of the content that you already have and maybe use some of these native tools to kind of stretch their value and stretch how you can repurpose them. So you can also kind of upload existing things from your phone. As you record, you can also determine the amount of time that's allowed. For me, another recommendation that I'll say here is, let's play around. Let's add in things. You can save these reels as drafts. So maybe you want to upload a reel with some content from last year and see how you can repurpose it, but you're not maybe 100% sure how. Like, upload it, see what, maybe there's a sound or some text overlays that you can add in, or some elements that you can add in to breathe new life into this content, because we know how time consuming and how resource heavy creating new content can be. So the more that you can sort of stretch it and reuse content, whether it is older, as long as you have kind of like that plan of how you're going to bridge the gap to what's currently happening, I think it's totally fine to use and reuse some of this content. So of course, I was mentioning native tools, and that really brings us to step 4. So in step 3, we're talking about like the effects and the AR filters. And here we're talking more about the text, the stickers, and other like elements that you can add in to help make your reel stand out. You're just seeing here like, hey, where to add these in, right? For your organizations, I probably wouldn't recommend a split sticker, but maybe there's a going green, or maybe there's a cancer awareness, or one for the particular cause that you're supporting, or I don't know, a tree, whatever it is. You also want to like look through and see what's available. And that brings us to the next step, which is selecting your cover image and thinking about what copy you want to add in, right? So what are the captions that we're going to be using? What are the hashtags that we want to add in? And should we, be tagging other accounts? Maybe or maybe not, depending on whether you're doing a partnership or whether you're featuring a success story. That's something that's going to be very dependent on the particular reel that you're creating. And then you'll want to select where you want to share your reel. So just to the Reels tab, to your feed, or to your story. I'm of the frame of thought of, the more the merrier, right? So I think the Reels tab, because we're seeing just how much people are discovering from on there, is a no-brainer. And then really depending on what the reel is about, maybe it's appropriate to leave on your feed, because it's something that you want to make sure that people can come back to, right? So if it's about, I think one of the suggestions I made was like, hey, 3 things that you may not have known about drunk driving, I don't know. And maybe your organization, I think there was one like Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Maybe that's your organization. 3 things that you didn't know, and you include those top 3 stats. Maybe that's something that you want to have live in your feed, because it's relevant to the organization regardless of time, right? It's not like it's not like it's something that is timely and it's not going to be relevant a week from now and you don't want to have there. So maybe something like that you want to make sure that is living on your feed as well as in the Reels tab. But maybe if you're focusing on those kids or those volunteers planting or cleaning up a garden, and this is highlighting a particular event, well, maybe that's not something that fits with what you want to have on the grid. And instead, you want to feature it in a story and then save it to a highlights under volunteer experiences, for example. So you just kind of want to think about, what is this topic that we're talking about? And should it be something that's on the feed so that whenever new potential supporters come in, would this be relevant to them, or should this be instead featured in a story and then maybe included in a highlight, for example? And then you'll add in the cover image. Once you have all of that, then you're able to share it. If your account is public, it'll appear on your profile, in the Reels tab, and on the feed of your followers. I'm assuming that none of your organization's accounts are private, so I'll skip that part. So we'll quickly go through how to create a reel from an existing video, since I was just mentioning like, hey, let's get the most out of our content. We have a hard time getting, I don't know, volunteers to get videos and content for us. It is really hard because we're usually, you know, wearing so many hats and stretched so thin. It can be really difficult for us to remember to capture content. So we want to just be able to like get the most out of every piece of content that we do have. So if you want to upload an existing video, you want to tap the icon on the lower left of your screen, search for that video, choose for the one that you want to upload, and then click add. And then of course, add in, you know, those stickers or those additional elements that you think may be game changing, or maybe that interactive and engaging layer that will be helpful to add. So let me share really quickly some do's and don'ts, and these are just very general of what we've seen, not just for a nonprofits, but what we've seen for Reels in general. Gosh, so of course you want to think entertainment. There's a lot of action and happening in that Reels tab in people's feeds, not just from causes that they may care about, but you're going to be competing with content from other businesses, content from friends, from family, from influencers that they may be following. So you want to think like, okay, what's something that may be capturing, that may entertain them and offer them a burst of joy, right? Depending on the organization and that brand personality. You also, and I think this is really relevant to a lot of the organizations, want to add in something that's inspiring, right? So starting a trend or starting a challenge is something that you shouldn't necessarily like feel like you need to, need to shy away from, for example. Are you using all of the creative tools that you have available, right? So are you taking advantage of those stickers, of the audio, of the effects? Is it vertical? Gosh, please don't create Reels horizontally. Like just think mobile first, and being vertical is one of those things to think about. Experimenting and also being engaging, another thing to consider. In terms of don'ts, low quality. So especially if you're going to be uploading an existing video, like let's double check that the quality is going to be worth it. If it's not, then it may not have the impact that you want it to have. And so maybe at that point, it's like, you know what, we do have all this great content from last year, but the quality of the video maybe isn't up to fluff. So we're up to snuff. So we're not going to do that. You also want to consider like, hey, is it text heavy? So don't be so reliant on text. That means maybe let's use some voiceover instead, or let's think of like the 3-4 quick bullets that we can use to help our messaging come across. And then, you know, you want to think like, does this video or content have watermarks or other elements from other apps that maybe aren't necessarily visually appealing? For nonprofit organizations in particular, you want to think about using your time wisely and also celebrating your policies. I tried to pull, and I think one of the things that I mentioned is like we're seeing a lot of supporters create Reels benefiting organizations fundraisers, and that fundraiser option is somewhat new. So I was trying to see like, hey, what do we have regarding nonprofits currently using Reels to share? And again, because of the feature and of course legal and the policies, like we're not going to go through your Reels, and even if they're great, just share them out. Like we have to get all this consent. So there wasn't a ton that I could bring to the table, but I did see that this one from an organization, of course, abroad, really did a great job when it came to enhancing policies. And this is one of the things that I was mentioning. Like it may look a little bit text heavy, and I probably would have suggested that they do less. But this is a suggestion where I was saying like, hey, let's focus on like top 3 facts or 3 things that we accomplished or organization was able to accomplish last year, or highlighting in some way either your policies, the impact you've had, the people that you supported, and the change that you've been able to drive. So of course, standing out, I think I've mentioned a few times, and the authenticity in terms of the brand voice, etc., are also really important. So being relatable, uniquely you, and keeping it simple. We've also seen content is best when it's relevant. So you want to, if you have an opportunity, work with creators who are creating content in the same space as a nonprofit. So if you're based when it comes to like maybe providing healthy meals for children, well, that makes sense to maybe partner with a creator that's focused on healthy eating and maybe has an entire community built around creating healthy snacks, right? Maybe that creates a good amount of synergy. The call to action is so important, not just for Reels, not just in your newsletters, not just in your, it's like everywhere. The call to action is like, please always remember to draw attention to that. And it should be explicit in the video. Another thing that we've seen is showing people how. Otherwise, it can be easy to miss. So maybe you want to call out, instead of doing the top 3 things, you can do a reel on how to donate on our site and show the website, show how to donate on the website, or do a screen recording of your Instagram account and say how to donate through Instagram to our organization, like really explicitly calling that out. And if we're also thinking about what I was mentioning earlier about where this content should go, well, maybe that's something that you want to have in your feed so people can always see that. You also want to, get people hooked. So we saw an organization, I think I can say their name, but we saw them post a day in the life type of content. And they were, bringing people through a day in the life of a volunteer, a day in the life of our marketing lead, a day in the life of our, exec team, and that was a series that they did that they found to be really impactful and really engaging. The last thing I'll say is explaining the why. Because Reels have such a potential to go viral, nonprofits should really be clear on why they're asking for donations, and also really clear on what it'll do for people. You don't want to take for granted that that people are going to recognize the great work that you're doing, or they're going to just or that they're going to immediately make that connection. And we saw a few, I think, food-focused organizations really do this well, and highlight like the benefit that they are able to drive to the organization. I mentioned like, hey, we're primarily focusing on Instagram because that came first. But of course, Facebook Reels are also available, and you also have an opportunity to, I think one of the questions I saw was like, hey, I want to expand my reach. One of the ways is making sure that you're leaning into Reels across both of these areas. And then, of course, if you are and have the opportunity to do paid work, we have Reels ads, which give brands an opportunity to show, to sponsor or have their sponsored content show up there. So there are a bunch of features that are happening in the space that you can take advantage of that I encourage you to do, that I encourage you to take a look at. I know we have a few minutes left, so I'm gonna go through and pick out maybe some of the questions that have come in and see what I'm able to answer.
Thank you so much, Martha. This has been so insightful. I feel like even for me, I learned so much about how really the advantages and how nonprofits can take advantage. So thank you so much for sharing. I also just noticed the chat was blowing up. There was 48 questions in the
Gosh,
Q&A
okay.
game. So everyone has been really engaged. What a fantastic presentation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I also just want to give people the opportunity to continue engaging. I think one of the best things about this webinar and a lot of our webinars is the engagement portion. So I encourage everyone to join. We have a digital marketing for nonprofits Facebook group, and we can continue the conversation there and really just talk about more about how nonprofits are doing it and share with each other. So I'm gonna post that in the chat again. So I was trying to keep an eye, Martha, if you see any questions that you really want to answer, please go ahead and go for it. But I do have a couple picked out for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Perfect. So Janice asked, are you able to schedule when a reel is posted?
I don't believe you can currently. I mean, I know that there are a couple of apps that you are able to use for scheduling, but on platform, I don't believe there are currently.
Gotcha. Perfect. And also, Courtney asked, can we talk about audience targeting? My organization is regional, so it may not be helpful for me if I'm reaching people on the other side of the country with my reel.
Yeah, so in terms of audiences, I think we've been talking primarily today about organic, right? And I've been saying, hey, this is a great way to get discovered. Here are some of the things to consider. But if you're talking about targeting, I mean, our ads solutions tools do have targeting opportunities by state, for example. So you can say, hey, I'm only interested in states in the Northeast. So I only want my Reels ads to be shown in, I don't know, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and have that focus be there. We did remove zip code targeting, so that's no longer available, but you still are able to target at a state level.
Awesome. Thanks, Martha. Let's see. I saw another question came in before that. Basically, they have a lot of really great videos, but they're all in basically YouTube format, horizontal format. Is there anything you recommend for repurposing that content?
Yeah. So I want to quickly, Isa, ask if you don't mind maybe sharing in the chat the resources we have for Reels in general before I forget. But to answer this particular question, on our platform, I mentioned that we have a ton of native tools that can help with enhancing and editing your videos. But if you're especially using pre-existing content or longer form content, I would say that's where you want to use either there are a number of different editing apps. I mean, you can even, some of the free ones. I would cut them down because YouTube content generally doesn't translate, and it's not the type of viewership that a YouTube video usually garners is what we like to call like captivated viewing. It's kind of more of like that leaned back, I'm consuming this content really passively, where reels, stories, and a lot of the content on our platform, we consider it to be more like leaned forward. And because of that, you really do want to use apps, take the time to maybe cut these, think about what are the most important elements. I mean, without seeing the video, I couldn't tell you what to particularly include, but I would say you do want to use external apps to edit down those videos and make sure also that they're fitting the frame, right? So usually YouTube is going to be horizontal. For us, we very much recommend vertical. So you want to think about like, okay, how do I crop these? How do I edit these to maybe be for sure under 60 seconds and framed vertically as well.
Thank you so much, Martha.
Mhm.
There was a few questions really asking about seeing examples of
Mhm.
reels from nonprofits. And so I was wondering if you could point us to, where the best place to go to see that. And also that gave me a great idea of, maybe that's something we can actually write a blog post about to share with our audience, as well as collecting some of those examples.
Yeah, I would say, I think one of the things I mentioned is we need to get legal approval for any of the organizations or businesses that we feature in our success stories. And considering how new some of these, like fundraising, for example, fundraising on Reels is, we don't necessarily have that yet. So I would, however, recommend that you keep an eye out on social. Let me give you the link. It is socialimpact.facebook.com, and then also I think it's socialimpact.blueprint.com, where we keep that updated on like the latest and greatest, and that's going to be probably the first place that you're going to see any success stories. I'm sure you're following other organizations in your space, so I would continue to follow other nonprofits and keep an eye out, because they, like you, are probably just looking to tap their toes in and are like experimenting as well. So those are going to be my recommendations. Since right now, I don't believe there are any official case studies for me to share.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we can definitely work on getting something together to share with all of you as far as what we've seen. I saw someone in the chat said Charity Water has great reels, so that's always a great.
Yeah, they're always amazing. Yeah,
always amazing. So, the last question, because I know we're pretty much at time, or actually a little over, so thanks for sticking with
yeah.
us. Dina asked about where, if you're struggling with the tech, you need help with something when it comes to posting these reels, how can nonprofits get account customer service?
Yes. So if you go to that socialimpact.facebook.com, on that site, there's going to be, and I think there's like the header for education, and there's going to be a header for support. And there's a team of, gosh, I don't remember what their official title is, but there's a team of folk that work exclusively to support nonprofit organizations. And then, of course, if you're using, excuse me, our ad delivery tools in the business suite, you also have a section where you can send in any support questions. So it really just depends on whether you're utilizing some of the paid solutions or not, but you do have 2 channels to go through.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Martha. People are asking for that link again. So if you want to drop it in the chat, it's going so fast. We'll include the link in also the follow-up. Last thing I'll just mention again is just please feel free to go ahead and book that strategy call with us too, because we can talk about your engagement on social. We can talk about using Reels. We can also provide you with a follow-up resource package that will give you all the little tips and tricks and goodies that will help you put a lot of these ideas into action. And Martha, I am just so excited to have you here today. This has been incredible. Thank you everyone for joining. This has been like probably the most engaged webinar ever.
I love to hear that.
Yeah. And like the chat, I'm gonna have to save the chat. 55 questions total, and just thank you so much for bringing this to us today. Just what great insights for nonprofits that you really can take advantage of this this channel and opportunity. So thanks,
Awesome.
Martha.
Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to seeing some reels from you all and hopefully seeing you all soon as well. So thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. Well, this has been incredible. I'm going to save the chat, and I will see you all at our next webinar. We have another one next week and the week after that. And so we're keeping them coming. Lots of great content for you. But yeah, please keep in touch. Feel free to reach out with any other questions that we didn't get to today. So I think you all have my email. So feel free to shoot them my way, and I can always yeah, put you in touch with Martha if she's available too. So thanks again. Have a great rest of your afternoon.